Although in the past many have avoided investing in oil long term for all the correct reasons, the oil market today and over the past few weeks has looked a lot different than the one 2 months ago. Prices have collapsed, reaching new record lows, demand has fallen off a cliff due to the coronavirus, and a price war between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Putin's Russia has created quite a volatile market flooded with supply and virtually no demand. In this video, I hope to discuss the current oil price, oil fundamentals, and geopolitics, helping you understand the type of investment you can make with the current environment. This video might be a bit long, but I've poured many hours of research into this subject, and if you enjoy it, please hit that subscribe button and like button. A week ago, we were hit with some very bad news. Decade lows for crude oil due to the factors I mentioned earlier, but later, some positive comments by Trump and things bounced up just a bit. At the making of this video, WTI or West Texas Intermediate is trading for $26.53 a barrel, and that's up from $20.58 per barrel in early April. Still, with this small bounce, we are significantly down from earlier this year, where WTI was trading for as high as $63 a barrel. Oil, as you can see in this chart, is in general a volatile commodity because so many of the players are focused on market share and profits. Companies are happy with bigger prices as they profit immensely, but the need to push out competitors also at the same time acts as a negative feedback loop, pushing players to undercut prices in order to push competitors out of the space, gaining market share. This is all on top of geopolitics, which makes for a very volatile sector that is sometimes very hard to predict. So where does this lead us as far as future oil prices? Oil, like everything else, is based on supply and demand. Right now, we obviously have very low demand. You can see this by simply going out to the street and taking a look around. Traffic figures are down all around the world due to the coronavirus. With people working from home, avoiding vacations, and in general living in a quarantined state, demand has taken a plummet. Supply, on the other hand, is even larger than pre-coronavirus numbers. This is due to that price war. OPEC and Russia got into a bit of a disagreement where Russia refused to cut supply while the Saudis and OPEC were eager to. In order to match demand with supply, especially in a crisis such as this one, you need all the players to cut together. Russia refused. Some say this was an act of economic warfare in order to undermine the American shale oil industry. But regardless of the reasons, Russia refused and it went on to flood the market with crude instead. The Saudis, eager to prove their superior position in the market, also decided to up production. The result was a massive oversupply, causing prices to fall off a cliff. Oil companies around the world are now feeling the effects, and slowly refineries, oil producers, and wells are beginning to stop production and close their doors. This stare down is now in full force, with both countries refusing to blink, one trying to outdo the other. Meanwhile, in the free markets in countries like the United States, where the control of oil production is largely determined by market forces and not OPEC or other government entities, the effects have been devastating. Shale oil companies, which operate on much thinner margins than those in the Middle East and Russia, have suffered. Oil prices in the low 20s don't make any economic sense for them. The US government, while dealing with the coronavirus, has also had to address this issue by using a number of different strategies. Unlike the Saudis or the Russians, where one man can raise his fist and magically oil production stops, in the US the situation is much more complicated. There really isn't a good way for the government to enforce such a rule without severely violating laws and regulations. Oil companies operate independently, and the only way to get them to stop producing is by having them go bankrupt via natural market forces. This process takes forever and is devastating to local oil economies, something that really isn't favorable to politicians, especially the politicians in an election year. Thereby, the government has taken different approaches to help alleviate this situation. For one, they began buying up cheap oil and storing it. Trump has also used the coronavirus as an opportunity to shut down offshore rigs because of the health risk, deeming it non-essential. Offshore oil rigs happen to fall under the federal umbrella, making this move a little easier to enforce. This, however, is not enough, and oil prices simply need the Saudis and Russians to resolve their disagreement. This is why on March 29th, a group of 6 lawmakers sent a letter to the Secretary of State requesting a harsher stance against Saudi Arabia and its current oil policy. On April 9th, another 60 Republican U.S. representatives signed a letter that essentially stated the Saudis must cut. Reading directly from the letter, if the kingdom fails to act fairly to reverse this manufactured energy crisis, we would encourage any reciprocal responses that the US government deems appropriate, basically a threat. Failure to address this energy crisis will jeopardize the joint efforts between our nations to collaborate economically and militarily, it reads. The US military presence in the Middle East region has maintained the stability that provides for the economic prosperity and ensures the security of our two nations. Basically saying that we protect you and allow you to print all this money, so listen up and cut, otherwise have fun defending against Iran and other threats. This amount of US pressure has made the Saudis aware that diplomatic relations are in jeopardy. Whether by coincidence or pressure, the Saudis scheduled a meeting to participate in a video conference between OPEC and Russia, where it's rumored that a plan has been put in place to cut output by 10 to 15 million barrels per day. Today it was reported that OPEC did reach such an agreement, and cutting 10 million barrels was going to be the goal. Because of this, oil prices will most likely skyrocket, but it may take some time for the market to react, as proof is needed that the plan is actually being implemented. At any time, one of the players can begin pumping, and once it goes, the deal is off, and another market flood awaits. Our play will hedge this risk by using a rather simple strategy. For one, we can bet on oil going up by buying calls on the USO or simply buying the USO, the United States Oil Fund. If talks progress as planned and there is an agreement to massive cuts, and those cuts actually happen, there will be without a doubt a substantial rise in price. However, if the meetings were all talk and no show, we're looking at significant losses. So in order to mitigate this risk, we can buy a tanker stock, something like NAT or Nordic American Tankers, which currently trades for $3.70. I can explain why in a moment, but first I would like to take a brief moment and talk to you about TradingView. Easy and intuitive for beginners and powerful enough for advanced chartists, TradingView has all the charting tools you need to share and view trading ideas. Real-time data and browser-based charts let you do your research from anywhere, and there is no installation or complex setups. Just open TradingView on any modern browser and start charting, learning, and sharing trading ideas. Please use my affiliate link in the description if you would like to support the channel. Appreciate it, guys. Now back to our play. The Twitter oil community has strong sources to point out that the Saudis, which understand what is at stake at the meeting, have options. If things fall apart, they will simply book up every VLCC available to them. VLCCs are large ships that carry millions of barrels of oil. These ships can act as pseudo-storage and often take months to get to their destinations anyway. The rates for the shipping can be as high as $100,000 per day, but with this massive increase in shipping demand in a scenario where the Saudis begin to book up these ships, the rates will jump to as high as $500,000 per day. This situation will see the tanker stocks earn large profits, which will in turn be reflected in the stock price. Tanker stocks are relatively protected either way, but in the case of our play, they will serve as essentially insurance. If USO takes a nosedive, tanker stocks are sure to head up as they get booked up by players around the world. Recent reports have shown that the Saudi sovereign fund, basically a large government-controlled hedge fund, has started buying up European oil companies. This, to some people, is beginning to look like insider trading, claiming that the Saudis are aware that prices are going to rise. If they are committed to oversupplying the market for long periods of time, this move would make no sense. Therefore, it's the speculation of many oil trading experts that it's in the interest of both Saudi Arabia and Russia to commit to a deal. Low prices are not good for business and the economies of both countries, and while survival with crude at these levels is possible for a limited time, extended periods will result in serious troubles for both, especially with pressure from US lawmakers. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed, and as always, I would love to hear your oil play in the comments below.